Forced to work from home by your employer? Laid off or feeling depressed at home? Do you want to make money working from anywhere? We'll show you how to do it from your couch. It's time for another episode of the Work From Home Show. Coming to you from their homes in Austin, Texas and Tampa, Florida, here are your hosts, Adam and Naresh.
Welcome back to another episode of the Work From Home Show. This is your host, Adam Schrader, along with Naresh Vissa. We are once again joined by Rabbi Evan Moffic. You heard him on the last episode, and we wanted to bring him back for another episode. We're going to talk a little bit more about business and the economy coming out of this pandemic. So, Evan, I've been telling people that whenever we come out of this, remember who was doing what.
Right.
Like, look at what stores were treating their employees right and, doing the safe things. Look at who was offering, free lessons, like you were saying, and look for people who were continually adding value. And we talked before that we started recording about how I think a big chunk of the country isn't going to change a whole lot in terms of their habits, but I do think people are going to remember who was acting properly and what business was taking care of people when we come out of this. I think that's going to be big. I think the habits may not necessarily change, but who they give their money to is going to change moving forward.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking of different places where, services we've gone to or grocery stores and just in general, how people have, we have a pool. Our pool guy has been amazing, just generous. And yeah, I think you're right. I think people will really know. People will appreciate good service and people who do their job well now.
Yeah, and especially you look at the people who are doing stuff for kids right now and the parents and their appreciation that they're going to show whenever this is over, and they think, oh, this guy or this girl or this company took care of my kid for basically an hour a day doing this free art lesson or this Zoom class or something like that. I think if you can provide a service like that right now, it's going to, explode your business.
Oh, yeah, that's well put. People who can deliver real value now and do it without seeming self-serving are going to really thrive.
Well, I come from a different perspective. I somewhat agree with what you're saying, but knowing people and how fickle they are, at the end of all this, Amazon, Walmart, the same players are going to be at the top. But the idea, I think, of what did you do during this lockdown? Did you just sit at home and watch Tiger King and Netflix? Or did you write a book or start a podcast or start a business or work on a business or do something actually productive? I think that's going to be more important than a handful of small businesses who may have donated food for kids or something like that. I think this is a very, very important time to kind of analyze and become a student of what's going on. That's what I did back in 2008, 2009, 2010. I was pretty young at the time, late teens, early 20s, and I essentially became a student of what was happening. I did not participate in the crisis in that, fortunately, I didn't have a family member lose a home. I didn't have a family member lose a job. But I was a student of the financial markets, of the economy, and I told myself back then, I said, the next time something like this happens, I'm going to be prepared to overcome this because I know I am going to be older. I'm going to be independent. And so that's why when this started, within the first week of the lockdowns happening in early to mid-March, I had a meeting, I guess you can call it, with my wife. And I basically shared what I just told you guys. And I said, we need to be prepared for this because this moment, the next, 6 months to 8 months, this is where true successes are made. And we'll look back on the rest of our lives as we get older. And I want us to look back and say that pandemic in 2020, we didn't just sit at home and watch Netflix and fool around. We actually acted and tried to better ourselves and our family and our son during this process.
Yeah, I think that's an incredibly good way to look at it. And I think you're right. I mean, I've actually been really impressed with Amazon. I don't know how people are reacting, but they've been great for our family. I mean, to be able to get stuff so quickly. And,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I hope some of the small players, like I've noticed some restaurants that are doing a really good job with curbside delivery and doing things. I think the aspiration of doing amazing things during this pandemic is incredibly important. But you have to have a lot of psychological strength. And like you were a student of this, so you kind of prepared for this. For a lot of people, it's really hard. They're more reactive than proactive. And I think for people that are reactive, this is really hard. They just, if somebody isn't guiding them and telling them what to do, they really don't know what to do. And so obviously we'd rather be in the former, the proactive, than the reactive. But there are a lot of people who are struggling with that.
Yeah, I also think it's important to note that I think people who were running their own business or were, independent contractors or something, it's going to be, I think this is a lot easier time for them in terms of adjusting than people who have been relying on, the office work and the company paying them their salary and, maybe their salary even got cut during this. And it's just a whole different mindset of the people. And I think that's going to, the people who are like Naresh and myself, who have been doing their own company and doing their own thing and are used to it, I think they're going to come out of this a lot better than the W-2s.
Well, Naresh, what do you think about after 2008, people began saving more money for a while, like people's debt levels went down, and then they started going back up again in the last few years. Do you think people are going to save more money after this, or is it just going to sort of continue to be with all the government stimulus, spend?
No, in the United States, we live in a very, and this is where spirituality comes into play here, and religion comes into play here, because at least in my religion, materialism is not preached at all. Our main book, the Bhagavad Gita, it talks, really throughout the book about staying away from materialism and how toxic being a materialist could be, and to live this life of dharma, which is essentially doing things without any expectation in return. And so many people, they do things thinking, oh, I'm going to get something, I'm going to get a favor, I'm going to get money, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to get something back in return. And so the United States, for whatever reason, I know we're a Christian nation, but the United States is very material, and our economy runs off of this materialism.
Yeah.
So the idea of saving 80% of our country is about to run out of cash within the next 30 days of this episode publishing. And that's why we have all the stimulus and checks going out to people, $1,200, bailouts and all that. I don't think that's a cultural phenomenon. It's been talked about going, at least since I can remember, to Jimmy Carter, and he warned the nation about it. People said he was a moron and that he was trying to destroy the economy by telling people to essentially be more humble and to be cheap and not waste their money on stuff. And so he wasn't voted back in. It's a cultural thing that it's hard to change people's psychologies and their minds. At the same time, I think the gap between the wealthy and the poor is just going to become even bigger and bigger, because let's face it, the people who are wealthy, they learned how to save and they learned how to invest and they learned how to grow their wealth, and they are continuing to do that, and they're going to thrive during this pandemic and after the pandemic. And the poor, or really the bottom 80%, they're going to be dependent on the government dole.
Yeah, and I think you also have the people, after 2008, they started saving money because there was nothing to spend it on. You couldn't get any credit. You didn't have anything to necessarily spend money on. I think right now, the credit's getting kind of hard and people are going to save for a little bit. But, the fact is, like Naresh was saying, right now, people are, before this pandemic, people were saying I think it was like 33% or 40% of Americans, if there was a $500 unexpected expense, they were out of luck. And so, it's the simple fact of the way that we live, people can't save. So I don't think that's going to change.
Costs are so high, right. With education costs, daycare, healthcare, it's very hard to save. Yeah, that's a good point. In some ways, that is something from a sort of spiritual and socioeconomic level. I do worry that this is just exacerbating the class and economic differences that were already big.
Oh, it's massive.
It's just made it worse,
Yeah, that's what you get with capitalism. Right. But at the same time, going back to the whole saving concept, I know people personally, and I've read some books of public school teachers making $35,000 a year, $40,000 a year. and retiring within 25 years.
Yeah.
When they started teaching at the age of 25, they were retired by 50. And there's one person, maybe I'll try to reach out to him, get him on the show, but that's what he did. Within 25 years, he and his wife both retired off their teacher salaries.
I think you're going to see a lot of them going back into the workforce, though. I think you're going to see a lot of the FIRE people, the financial independents, retire early. I think a lot of those people hit their mark and then retired, and they weren't expecting a 30% drop in the market, that they weren't prepared for that.
You're right about that. But the point that I'm making is not necessarily market factors, but that saving can be done. Saving for retirement, saving personally, buying a house, it can be done on a $35,000 a year salary compared to, I mean, look, I hear all the time people I know, like in healthcare, for example, complaining about patients who come in and they can't afford healthcare or they can't afford their medication, but they're wearing Michael Jordan shoes, they're wearing these headphones.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just look, my wife, all of her coworkers make well into the six figures, and there are a lot of them who, when this happened, were like, oh my gosh, I can't. Like, when my pay gets cut in half, I can't afford that. It's like, how on earth are we living as a society?
Right.
And this was, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, between 4 and 5 weeks ago. It's like, how on earth can you make that much money and not have 2 months of savings? It's
amazing.
That's just the way it's, you were saying saving is possible, but saving is neither easy, taught, or encouraged in our society.
And Adam, what you said, I think, was really on point on this, is you said sometimes independent contractors and self-employed are actually better prepared for times like these, because in some ways you have to save. You have to be mindful of your expenses, because you don't know when that you don't know if next month is going to be as good as this month, so you have to prepare for it, and that actually keeps you more prepared for these kind of uncertain times.
That's a really good point. And when it comes to business in general, running a business, there's always uncertainty. No matter how great the economy is going, there's always January 1st starts and it's a new year and you have no idea how the year is going to go. Even if you had an incredible year the year before. And I've been going through it since I started my business in 2013. So you're trained as a business person to not be risk averse, but to always take risk into account. And it's just funny because I know some ultra wealthy, I know like billionaires, and these guys still act like, they were that 30-something starting a business, bootstrapping everything, and they're billionaires. They're still cutting coupons. They're still, using any asset that they have until it dies. It's kind of funny to see, but it's simply because they developed that mindset a long time ago. And you have to, if you want to be successful in business, you have to. You can't be one of these Silicon Valley startups that just goes out and raises $10 million and just burns through the capital in 1 year because your VC told you that you had to do it. That's not most small businesses anywhere in the world.
Yeah, but even the larger companies, like my wife's healthcare company, they came out at the end of March, beginning of April, I don't remember when it was. They sent an email out to all the staff, and this is a large company, that said, we have tons of reserves, we have a huge line of credit, no worries. A week later, they sent out an email that said, hey, just kidding, basically, you're going to have to start taking some unpaid days whenever we tell you can't work. Then three days later, they came out and said, we're just kidding again, everybody's going down to half pay. So this was a large company who didn't even save up for a rainy day. Like they went in like 2 or 3 weeks. It went from we're flush with cash to, hey, everybody needs to work at half pay because we don't have any money.
Wow.
So I
wonder, was that company, was it a large partnership, or was there one founder of the company?
It's a large. It covers. It's nationwide. Like their group.
Okay, that's
owned
why.
by.
That's why, because these very large companies. That's what, like, if you look at the publicly traded companies, they don't have a founder, right? Because their founder probably died 100 years ago. And so nobody really takes ownership of the company. The shareholders are essentially, or the board of directors, many different people are owners of the company. Whereas if it's like a private company owned by one person or like a small group of people, then they feel like it's their money. So I'm not going to be as negligent with my spending with my own companies, because I feel like those are my companies. My names are on them. I'm the founder. That's my money. But if one of my companies becomes this multi-billion-dollar company in 100 years from now, after I'm long gone, it's being run by a bunch of shareholders and board of directors and investors, then yeah, they don't feel it's okay for them to be like, oh, let's go, let's file for Chapter 11 and restructure, big deal. That's the problem when you either kick out a founder or a founder disappears from a company.
So true. So we got to feel sense of ownership. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Rabbi Evan Moffic, awesome discussion.
So great being with you.
Before we head out, I want to let our listeners know once again, you are the spiritual leader of Congregation Solel in suburban Chicago. The website for that is solel.org, SOLEL.org. And check out his books. #1 best-selling author. These hit the top of various lists. What Every Christian Needs to Know About the Jewishness of Jesus. And also the other book, What Every Christian Needs to Know About Passover. Rabbi Moffic, any final thoughts?
I just want to say thank you to you both for starting this show. And, even though I generally don't work from home, I am right now, and just having good ideas and techniques and almost a little inspiration for doing that has been really helpful. And I think it's a tremendous service, and it's part of a larger movement of redefining what work can be, because I feel very lucky. What I do for my work is connected to my own life, and it's very seamless. I don't feel like I have work and home, in general. And I think a lot more people are going to feel that way, and you're helping us to adapt to it. So thank you.
Awesome. RabbiMoffic.com. That's Rabbi Moffic. Check out the show notes. We'll have a link there, RabbiMoffic.com. Rabbi Evan Moffic, thanks again for joining the Work From Home Show. And to all of our listeners, check us out. All our previous episodes, workfromhomeshow.com, workfromhomeshow.com. Get on our mailing list. You'll get a free copy of my book, 50 Shades of Marketing, if you visit workfromhomeshow.com. Also, if you have any questions for the rabbi, we can forward them on to him. You can visit his website, rabbimoffic.com, or reach out to us, hello@workfromhomeshow.com, hello@workfromhomeshow.com. Homies, homegirls, homeboys, home trans, thanks a lot for listening to this awesome spiritual conversation that we've had with Rabbi Evan Moffic. And until next time, keep on working from home.